What's up, y'all? The beginning of the day in chapter 404. Y'all gonna get my live reaction to it. All right, let's get started. Arthur Lewin. Okay, here we go. We actually got Arthur. Okay. Let me just try to calm down. Okay, I'm gonna try to calm down. All right. Arthur Lewin. Here we go. Arthur Lewin. Winsome waited, his otherworldly eyes trained on me, his expression unreadable. My head turned slightly so I could see the cavernous arched entry to the palace, where Jasmine's silhouette was just visible within the shadows. Inside the darkened outline of her form, Regis' violet glow was like a beacon. Okay, that's interesting. So you can see exactly where Regis is. All right. I placed a foot on the bottommost of the ethereal stairs leading up to the portal Winsome had manifested. Did you try to talk him out of it? I asked, stopping. Okay. Winsome frowned and ran his fingers through his Wait. Is Arthur talking about Aldir? Or is Arthur talking about Kezess? Talk him out of it. Talk Aldir out of leaving Kezess? Or is he talking about talking Kezess out of having a conversation with him? I'm not sure. Maybe Winsome didn't agree with meeting Arthur, and so maybe he's talking about Winsome talking about. I don't know. Winsome frowned and ran his fingers through his platinum blonde hair. I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, Eleanor. Okay, gotcha. Bruh, I am so hyped for this, yo. I'm so hyped. Okay. Eleanor, I said, turning back to him, staring into those galaxy-like eyes. As envoy to this world, did you try to talk Lord Indrath out of the attack on Eleanor? So he didn't say Kezess. I'm peeping. He didn't say Kezess. He said Lord Indrath. So he doesn't want to be disrespectful. Okay. No, Winsome said, relaxing. I volunteered to go along and ensure General Aldir was able to complete the mission. I see, I said with a nod. Unhurried, I climbed the rest of the stairs until I was standing just in front of the portal. Look, they are drawing this out, right? Is he going to go through the portal? Is he not going to go through the portal? Now he's at the top of the stairs, just before the portal. Is he going to go through? Is something going to happen? I don't know. We'll see. Winsome's crimes would be punished eventually, I told myself. But at that moment, my mind was on much more important beings than him. Is this Arthur still speaking, or is this Winsome? Wait, I'm so confused. Okay. Drawing in a deep breath and mentally preparing myself for what was to come, I stepped through the palace, Ediston. All of Dicaphan melted away into golden light. He's through the portal. Even before Ephiodus resolved in my sight, I felt the distance yawning between Regis and me. I remember, I mentioned this. I mentioned whether or not he's going to be able to be that far away from Regis. I said this, so let's see. Tether requiring physical proximity between us had been broken when I dragged Tassi into the relic tombs. Right. But there had been no time to consider the ramifications during that fight. At that moment after the battle, I had felt no change in whatever etheric binding connecting us. Now, in the instant where I was entirely within the golden beam of light, no longer in Dicaphan, but not yet in Ephiodus. Okay, so like midway. I felt my connection to him fade, leaving behind a biting kind of emptiness that would have felt like madness if I hadn't already understood its source. That's strange. That's really interesting. Then the light faded, and I was welcomed by that familiar feeling of being in another world. Just like the first time Winsome had brought me to Ephiodus, and all thought of Regis was driven from my mind. There were no twin mountain peaks, no shimmering bridge, no pink pedestal trees, no towering castle. Instead, I was standing on the carefully trimmed lawn of a simple cottage with a straw roof. What? Where is he? My heart skipped a beat. Turning in a quick circle, I confirmed that the cottage was surrounded by towering trees with sprawling canopies of leaves that wove together, leaving a small clearing where the familiar cottage stood out strangely. Winsome appeared beside me, stepping through the golden light with his thin, blind brows raised. He barely glanced at me before gesturing to the cottage door. Why are they at a cottage, bruh? Like, this has got to be some sort of magic, right? This got to be some sort of magic, something that's like, Kezess, like, because, he can, like, switch the area that he's in. You remember when Aldir and Winsome was waiting for Kezess to finish his bath or at the pool or whatever he was at, and then he, like, just snapped his fingers, and I don't know if he snapped his fingers, but something happened, and then they just, like, were, like, warped to the castle again or something like that, or his private chambers or something. Maybe it's some type of magic like that. That's what I'm thinking. Why are we here? I asked, but he only repeated his gesture more firmly this time. So go through the door. This could be a trap, bro. This could be a trap. I don't know, Arthur. You better use those senses, man. Better use those senses. I don't trust it. I don't trust it. I don't trust it. I don't trust it. I hadn't seen or spoken to Lady Meyer, Kezess' wife, since I had trained here years ago. Wait, trained here years ago. Wait, is that the cottage where he was taken to after he had got into the fight with the bear that was like infected with the parasite or whatever? Is that where he's at? Okay. But I thought of her often, especially as my own understanding of ether increased and revealed the failure of the dragon's perspective. I didn't allow my uncertainty to show in my movements or expression. However, when Winsome made it clear he wouldn't answer, I moved with outward poise to the door. It opened with the slightest tug. The bright, clean light of magical lightning artifact spilled out. The interior was exactly as I remembered it. Nothing moved, nothing out of place, well, almost nothing. In the center of the room, lounging in a wicker chair, was Lord Kezess Indrath. He wore simple white robes that caught the light like liquid pearls and jagged, blood-red hoops through his ears. Okay. I quickly scanned the rest of the visible cottage, but he appeared to be the only one present. Okay. Use those instincts, man. This could be a setup. Kezess' eyes, lavender at first, but shifting to a darker, richer shade of purple as I entered, followed my every movement. His hardness and intensity at odds with his other... Man, this is so crazy. I am so... Woo, man, I'm just so hyped. I'm just so hyped, man. I'm just so hyped. Every movement, okay. His hardness and intensity at odds with his otherwise plastic expression and body language. The smooth lines of his youthful face and relaxed angle of his thin limbs were likewise out of alignment, with the air of unassailable power radiating from him. Okay. Not his intent, King's force, Cauldry had called it, but I still couldn't sense his mana or aura. Man, he also said that a few times, how you can't sense Kezess' aura or his mana. He just has. You remember how like Arthur back when he was on the Victoria, how everybody would talk about, oh, he has such perfect control over his mana that nobody can sense it or feel it. Which not true. He didn't have any mana. He was just using ether. But now he's around Kezess and just like he can't even sense it because that's how perfectly. It wasn't the same with Winsome, right? Winsome and Aldir, he could sense their mana. But with Kezess, you can't sense shit because he has that perfect control over his mana. Man, Kezess, man. That's why, man. That's why I don't understand why Kezess won't just go down and just end things. If you got the power like that, if you that OG, just go down there and just take out a Brona. No big deal. Okay, let's get back to it. But there was nonetheless a constant and inexplorable force around him, like gravity or the heat of the sun. Kezess shifted in his seat, and his mid-length silvery hair waved slightly. The silence between us lingered. I am so interested in seeing what Kezess is going to say, man. I understood the game well enough. No doubt Winsome would have stood at attention for hours waiting for. So he already knew, man. And this is probably from his experience as a king back on Earth, how Aldir, and I just mentioned that, how Aldir and Kezess literally waited for hours. Like, that's the amount of respect and like sort of dignity that they carried. Where it's like, okay, when we're around Kezess, we wait. If it takes days, we're waiting, right? So he already understands all this. Winsome would have stood at attention for hours waiting for Kezess to. Okay, let me before I continue. Okay, so we knew that he showed some respect towards Kezess because of how he addressed him. Like, oh, you know, did you stop him? You know, Lord Indrath, right? I wonder how much respect is Arthur going to show Kezess. I would guess that he's going to show some respect, but we're going to see. We're going to see. Okay, so back to it. Would have spent hours for Kezess to acknowledge him should the Lord or the Asuras deem it so. But I didn't accept him as my sovereign, and I hadn't accepted his invitation to simply stand in his presence. How long have you been following my progress? I asked. The corner of his lips twitched and his eyes darkened further. Arthur Lewin, I should welcome you back to Ephiodus. Now, as before, you are brought before me just as war stirs in your world. Bruh! Okay, he's not even acknowledging what his question. He's just like, fuck what you got to say, Arthur. Oh my God. Okay. Stirs, I asked, shifting my weight from one leg to the other. I was very aware of the physicality between us. With Kezess still sitting, almost motionless, and me standing before him, you know all too well the state of the war between Dicathan and Alacria. And I'm guessing this is Kezess. That conflict is no longer important, he said, with the tone of one discussing an expected change in the weather. That's crazy. I told you before that I saw you as a necessary component in that conflict, but you failed to heed my advice, which led to your inevitable failure. His advice. Oh, all right. Is he talking about his advice to not carry so much about other people? Right? I think that's what he said to him before. Like, you know, don't really. Yeah, like before he left, he said something about not caring about other people, or, you know, don't get so attached, emotionally attached to people, or something like that. You know, how it's going to stop him from being able to fulfill his duties or being strong or something like that. I remember something like that. Now it is time to determine if there is a place for you in the upcoming war between the Vitra clan and all of Ephiodus. Okay. So he doesn't even give a fuck about Alacria anymore. He's saying, listen, Alacria, you already failed. That's over and done with. Now let's see if I can use you and you can have a position in the war between all of Ephiodus and the Vitra clan. Which Arthur shouldn't be cool with this because of the fact that, like, yo, like, all I care about is Alacria. Well, he cares about all I care about Dicathan. He cares about Dicathan, right? So I don't know if I misspoke, but yeah, he doesn't care about Dicathan. Kezess, he only cares about Ephiodus. He don't even consider Dicathan anything at this point, right? So Arthur cares about Dicathan. He cares about Alacria as well. So I don't know how Arthur's going to take this. Something he said stuck out to me, and I couldn't bring myself to move past it, despite other aspects of our conversation being more important. Your advice I failed to heed. You're talking about Tessia? His brows rose a fraction of an inch, and his eyes flashed magenta. Through you and the other reincarnate, Nico, Agrona groomed the perfect vessel for the entity known as the Legacy. And through her, you have given him knowledge and power enough to be a threat to Ephiodus. And in doing so, all but assured the destruction of the world you've come to love and everyone in it. How is he gonna blame Arthur for what? Falling in love with Tessia? Or liking Tessia and having a like, even if it wasn't Tessia, it would have been somebody else. It would have been somebody else that he was attached to. I mean, It had to be somebody that Arthur was attached to, and that also Nico or Elijah at the time had a connection with as well. So it could have been Kathleen, it could have been Tessia, it could have been Emily, it could have been who knows, you know? And through her, you have given him knowledge and power enough to be a threat to Epheotus, and in doing so, all but assure the destruction of the world you come to love and everyone in it. You think yourself wise because you have lived 2 short lives, and so you refuse to listen to well-meaning advice, forgetting that those giving it lived for centuries before King Grey was born, and will live centuries after Arthur Langwin's bones have turned to dust. How long can these motherfuckers live? I know they said thousands of years, but can Arthur not live for thousands of years now because he's half a sword? I suppressed the scoff. I didn't think you knew half as much as you pretended. Right. Okay, let me keep going. Half as much as you pretended to. If you understood any of this before Cecilia's reincarnation, you have had Winsome kill Tessie. Right! If you understood this before Cecilia's reincarnation, you would have had Winsome kill Tessia or Nico or even me. I crossed my arms and took a step closer to him. How has a grown-up gotten so far ahead of you, bro? Ooh. Woo, let's see. Oh, I want to see, gonna take this as a threat or disrespect. I don't know. Without the appearance of moving, Kezess was suddenly standing. What the fuck, bro? Man, this is crazy. Without even shifting his body to move, he just blink, I'm standing. Like, bruh, man, this dude, Kezess, is crazy. Crazy. Kezess was suddenly standing. His eyes were the color of angry violet lightning, but his expression remained placid except for the tightening of his jaw. You aren't making a good showing of yourself right now. Before you had your bond with my granddaughter to shield you, as you have in your many failures allowed her to die in battle. You can no longer claim such protection. If you do not prove to me that you yet have a part to play in the war, I will destroy you, bro. Woo! I've been expecting this, both the threat and his mention of Sylvie. I couldn't guess how much Kezess knew about what had happened to Sylvie, but there was a certain way to find out. Empowering the spell form on my forearm, I reached for the iridescent stone egg. Oh, I forget who it was, but I remember somebody mentioning that one of the people making the comments in the video, someone mentioned that, he might take out the stone egg. And I was saying that I don't think he's going to care enough to even bring up the egg because Kezess doesn't give a fuck about Sylvie. But I also mentioned we don't really know how much he cares because we never had a POV from Kezess. So we never knew what was going through his mind and what he was thinking when he met Sylvie and, Sylvia and everything that happened. We don't know how he really feels about it. But he calls him a failure because, he allowed Sylvie to get killed. Okay. I couldn't guess how much Kezess knew about what happened to Sylvie, but there was a certain way to find out. Empowering the spell form on my forearm, I reached for the iridescent stone egg I had recovered from the relic tombs after waking. The stone appeared in my hand, wreathed momentarily in etheric particles. Sylvie didn't die. Okay, hold on. Let me, before I go. So he reached out for the stone to show Indrath, show Kezess that Sylvie didn't die, so that way he can still have that layer of protection. And I think he did this because of the fact that if he didn't, any little thing that Kezess might be not okay with, Kezess can kill him. Which, most definitely, Kezess can kill Arthur right now. So, I think it was just smart to say that, hey, listen, she didn't die. She's here in like this hibernating type of form. And maybe, is Kezess going to get the egg and show and like physically give it to him? Maybe Kezess might actually get the egg, or maybe he might do his time abilities, and it might just appear in his hand like how Sylvie did. Sylvie didn't die. Kezess reached for the egg but stopped just short, his outstretched fingers lingering just inches away. So it's true then. So he didn't want to touch it. I waited, hoping Kezess might give something away. Asking any questions about the egg or what Sylvie had done would reveal my own points of ignorance, and I didn't want to give the ancient dragon any more leverage over me. Right, because that's what I think I also mentioned that too. Like, he might be able to find out some information about the egg, or maybe somebody else made that comment. I'm not sure. But he was just as careful, and after searching my eyes briefly, he let his hand fall and shifted back subtly. I trust you will continue to work to revive her. A statement, not a question. So he didn't reveal anything about what type of ether art she used to be able to do that to herself. Of course, she is my bond. Ether reached out to grab hold of the egg and withdrew it into the extra dimensional storage space. So he never touched it. I wonder, so he's just being careful. That's how I take this. Kezess is just being careful when it comes to Arthur and, you know, the egg and everything. He's just being careful. Although Kezess hasn't given much away, his response told me two very important pieces. Okay, his response, I will say that his response told him that he knows this ability that she used, but he maybe doesn't have the represent tools to be able to bring her back, which means that he's depending on Arthur to figure out how to bring her back. So maybe someone's used his ability before in the past, but they never figured out how to bring them back to life, and he's trusting Arthur to bring them back to life. This is my theory, but let's see what he says, if I'm right or not. Two very important pieces of information. First, he knew what was happening with Sylvie, right? I still didn't understand how she transformed into this egg or been transported into the relic tombs with me. Obviously, Kezess knew what the egg stone was, right? Second, he couldn't revive her himself. Man, I knew it. If he could, I felt certain he would have tried to take the egg from me. This most likely meant that only I could complete the process of imbuing the egg with ether. Right, exactly. He would have taken it if he knew. Kezess turned and unhurried, made his way across the cottage to where several herbs and plants were hanging from the wall, drying. Lady Meyer will be sad to have missed you, he said conversationally, pinching something that smelled like mint between his fingers. Although I can't help but wonder if her attachment to you was due more to the presence of our daughter's will within your core than any innate characteristics of your own. He turned, and his eyes had softened to lavender again. It was an impressive feat that you reached the third phase of connecting with Sylvia's will. Right! The third phase, which we never knew anything about, because we knew the first phase. The first phase was, why am I blanking out? Because the second phase was him having like more control of all the elements. I think the first phase was Static Void or Realm Heart, right? Wasn't Realm Heart the first stage to be able to freeze things in time? And then the second stage was when he had like all of the, you know, the powers of all the different elements. You know, when he can control gravity, with what he had did to what's his name? Shit, I can't think of his name at all right now. The kid in the school, the half-elf kid, Byron Wykes. His last name is Wykes. I can't even think of his name. I can't even think of his name at all. But when he used the gravity magic to, you know, crush his balls and shit. So yeah, he had like better control over all the elements and stuff like that. He had like black lightning and shit. And so that was the second phase, I believe. So then you got the third phase, which allowed him to like bend fucking space and like, and then he created his own portal to get off. Man, that was crazy. And so now I'm thinking about Ellie. Can Ellie unlock a third phase of her beast will with Boo? Can Virian unlock a third phase of his beast will? Or maybe it's just for like the S-class beast willows. But anyway, I'm just thinking. It got me thinking. Too bad it killed you, or would have without Sylvie's intervention. And yet, even though you lost her will, you have retained the ability to influence ether, even grown more proficient in it. His eyes buried deep into mine, and the sensation of maggots crawling into my skull made my stomach turn. You will tell me everything, Arthur. Bruh, there's no way! You ain't doing this shit, bruh! No fucking way. No way! No. Arthur is not, no. Arthur can't tell, bruh. No. Arthur ain't telling him shit. Arthur ain't telling him shit. There is no way. There's no way he's gonna tell him all this. Okay, so he knows that Sylvie is still alive in the egg. So now he has leverage. Arthur has leverage now. He knows that Sylvie's alive in the egg. He also knows that Arthur is the only one that can bring her back. So he can't just easily kill him unless he's accepting the fact that Sylvie's never going to be able to come back. There's no way. There's no way. No way. He ain't telling him shit. No way. You will tell me everything, Arthur. Aside from a minute twitch in my right eye, I kept my discomfort off my face. What are you going to do for me in return? The bright lights of the cottage dimmed as Kezess' nostrils flared. As I have already stated, you'll be allowed to live if you convince me of your use. I chuckled without answering. I moved to a wooden rocking chair and took a seat, kicking one leg up to rest over the other. You want to bargain for my knowledge. I understand. After all, you have sought this insight for centuries, even committed genocide, only to fail to acquire what I have learned in a year. Bruh, man, let him know. Let him know where you at, Arthur. Let him know. His eyes narrowed. If you know what happened to the djinn, then certainly you see that I won't hesitate to sacrifice one lesser life for the greater good. Get the fuck out of here talking about some greater good. The fuck? I stared at the dragon, deadpan, rocking slightly back and forth in Maya's chair. Greed and greater good may share a few letters, but you'll rarely find them sharing company. Yo, man, Arthur with the, man, he got the wordplay. Man. He's a lyricist. Show me. Kezess ordered, ignoring my jibe. I can sense the ether around you, burning inside you, but I wish to see you use it. Prove to me this isn't more than some parlor trick. Man, you know this ain't no parlor trick. He knows this ain't no parlor trick. He is so intrigued. That's why he's kind of, because like he's always stoic. Kezess is always stoic, always in his whole form, right? He's always in form, and he's never showing any sort of emotion. Now he's kind of riled up a little bit now. And this is because he's so intrigued, because he sees how valuable it is to learn what Arthur knows. So that's why he's just like, show me, you know, and man, Arthur got him. He know where he's at. He's got him. I bit my tongue to keep from speaking more barbed words. I wasn't afraid of Kezess, but I hadn't come here just to provoke him either. He had a purpose in summoning me, and I had a purpose in accepting. Exactly. He wouldn't have gone there for no reason. I considered the runes at my disposal. So the runes at his disposal, he has Godstep, he has Auroria's Requiem, and he also has Realm Heart. So he has 3 God runes. And Realm Heart is probably the most powerful. Not gonna lie. It has the highest amount of potential. His most powerful one is probably Godstep right now. But Realm Heart has the potential to do some crazy shit, man. Crazy shit. He's barely scratching the surface of what Realm Heart can do. Is he gonna show him though? Is he gonna show him what he can do? I considered the rooms at my disposal and what would cost me the least to reveal. He's gonna show him, bruh. So this just goes to show that Arthur understands the threat and the power that Kezess has. So he's willing to give him a taste. So he doesn't think that Sylvie's egg is enough for. Okay, let me just keep. I got so many thoughts. I considered the rooms at my disposal and what would cost me the least to reveal, but there was an obvious choice. Okay, let me guess what he's gonna choose. He's gonna choose Godstep. I think he's gonna choose Godstep. He's not gonna show him Remhart. Is he? Because Remhart is the most similar to what the Indrath clan can do, as far as being able to see the ether and stuff and mana. I don't know. I'm gonna choose. I think he's gonna show him Godstep. I think Remhart will be revealing too much. I think he's gonna show Godstep. Sending ether into my god room. Oh, he activated Remhart. Nah. I activated Remhart. The heat of the magic brought a flush to my cheeks as it infused every cell of my body, and the air was filled with color. The god room making visible and individual motes of mana that infused everything around us. Immediately visible as well were the borders between ether and mana, as the atmosphere was rich with both. They seemed so obvious now that I had learned how to look properly. I wondered if Kezess could see them. Kezess made a short, sharp cutting motion with one hand, and ether flared out from him, rippling through the atmosphere, causing the world itself to harden and go still. The mana particles drifting in the air were motionless, and a string of herbs, which had been slowly rotating in the subtle air currents, froze. Then the ripple rolled over me, and I felt time stop. My mind flashed back to a time before the relic tombs, before my draconic form, before Sylvie's sacrifice. I remembered sitting with Elder Renia. I had been suspicious about the nature of her powers, and so activated Static Void without warning. She'd used ether to counter me, freeing herself from time stop spell. Okay, this is what I said. I said this maybe a couple months ago. Kezess's time stopping ability isn't going to work on Arthur because Arthur has the ability to use ether. He can use his ether to influence his abilities, so that way time stopping, it wouldn't be able to stop Arthur. And this is the exact same thing that Renia did with Arthur back during when he, immediately activated what he said, Static Void. I said this, and this is exactly what's happened. Reacting on pure instinct, I pushed outward against the ripple with a burst of my own ether. It clung to my skin like a thin film, repelling Kezess' spell. His eyes went wide, showing real surprise, and even, I thought, uncertainty for the first time. Everything else in the cottage was frozen, motionless, but my chair kept rocking slightly. So his chair is also enveloped in ether as well to resist his time-stopping abilities. And I felt one brow quirk up as my lips curled into a wry, humorless smile. I think you will find my understanding of ether sufficiently worth your time. Kezess glanced around, frowning slightly. He bent down to inspect something, and I realized there was some kind of spider clinging to the leg of Myers' table. Kezess pulled the spider from his perch, examining it closely. His fingers closed and the spider's inside stained his fingertips. He tossed the tiny corpse to the floor, then returned his attention to me. He did that for a reason, man. Kezess is so... he does everything for a reason. You have come by this knowledge within the series of dungeons known as the Relic Tombs, Kezess said, and echoing... Bruh, okay, hold on. Is this motherfucker Kezess gonna ask Arthur to keep diving into the dungeons, learn more about ether, and come back and tell him about it? Is he gonna give him like a mission like that? Just my thoughts. So the series known as the Relic Tomb, Kezess said, and echoing an echoing dissonance renaissance within his voice. But Agrona has been sending mages into the jinn's final redoubt for many years. His eyes narrowed as he peered at mine. Time still stopped. What made you different? How did you conquer where all others had failed? More questions. How much is Arthur going to reveal to this man? He already revealed Realm Heart. He already revealed his ability to resist his time stoppage ability. Man, he's giving up all his cards. Experimentally, I pushed back against the time stop spell. The ether around me flexed, but I wasn't able to expand the barrier beyond myself and the chair on which I sat. So he's limited. He can resist it, but he only can go so far. He can't like make a room that will like if he had somebody else with him, he wouldn't be able to stop them from being affected by his time stopping ability. Either on me flex. I wasn't able to expand the barrier beyond myself, blah, blah. I'm willing to give you information, but only if we can come to some kind of agreement. Kezess twisted his wrist and the spell faded away. I breathed easier, only then realizing what a drain it had been to hold off the Avum ability. So it uses up his ether or maybe stamina, I'm not sure which one, to resist his ability. But then you got Kezess who used that ability, and it was just like, I mean, he used that ability so easily. It was like just waving his finger and it's just, or waving his hand, and it's just like, oh, time stop, and then time start again. Like, or he said just twisting his wrist. So stop, and then resume. Like, he did it so effortlessly. Like, Arthur still has a long way to go, man. He can't fuck with Kezess at all. Before continuing, Kezess returned to his own simple wicker chair, lounging in it in a way that made it seem like a throne. He watched me for a while after that, considering. Then, slowly, as if tasting the words as he spoke them, he said, "The retaking of Daikathan has been a surprise, both for me and Agrona Vreacher, but it can't last." I nodded. I'm aware that Agrona's attention has been turned to his own lands. Once he's resolved the rebellion there, his eye and his forces will return to Daikathan. He may not have a complete understanding of my capabilities, but he knows I took down a squad of his wraiths. Next time, he'll send a force he knows will win. Okay. Indeed, your time is running short. Okay. I dropped my relaxed posture, instead leaning forward and resting my elbows on my knees. You want knowledge. Daikathan needs time. You spoke of a war between the Asura, but before, I've always been told such a war would destroy my world. I paused, letting my words hang in the air, then said, I won't let that happen, Kezess. That's my price. Kezess was suddenly standing again without my perceiving any physical movement. At the same time, the cottage melted away, dissolving like a cobweb caught in a rainstorm. That's why I said he can literally like warp physical matter. I don't know what the hell he can do. The woodsy brown tones gave way to shades of gray, which materialized into hard lines of stone and soft curves of clouds. And we were standing high atop the Indrath clan's castle in the very highest tower. The clouds were thick, rising halfway up the castle to hide the mountain peaks and the many-colored bridge below. Eddies of white, gray, and gold clouds swirl in between the towers and around the statue's stonework. Pink petals occasionally appeared tumbling through the mist, plucked from the hidden trees below and carried high into the sky by the updraft. But the part I found most amazing was that I had only sensed the barest application of ether from Kezess. And unlike his time stop spell, I haven't been able to react or deflect the teleportation. Right. So what the hell did he use to like warp things and like transport them to different areas? That shit is crazy. So is that spatium? So we know Avum is time, spatium is space. And we know Vivim is, living things. So is this spatium? This gotta be spatium, right? But he can't even detect it. I haven't been able to react or deflect the teleportation. If that's even what had happened, my mind raced to consider the implications of this and where the power stemmed from. If the situation ever devolved into violence between us, I couldn't allow him to simply shunt me around Ephiodus at will. Right. Kezess placed his hand on the sill of an opening window and stared out at his domain. The room around us was plain and empty, but there was a circular grove worn in the purple-tinged gray tiles that made up the floor, like someone had placed endlessly around in a loop for hundreds of years. You will explain... Bruh. Again? You will explain the powers you have gained, Indrath said, still not looking at me. And you will tell me in detail how you have managed this insight, and how you have created a core that can directly manipulate ether. In exchange, I will guarantee that no conflict between the Sura spills into Decathlon, and I will assist you in preventing the Grona from retaking the continent. Okay. This makes perfect sense. I don't know why I didn't say this before. Like, exchanging his insight into ether for protection. That's it. It's that simple. I swallowed my surprise. I hadn't expected him to make such a fair offer so quickly. So he said that in exchange, he would guarantee no conflict between the Asura spills into Decathlon, and I will assist you in preventing a Grona from retaking the continent. I had but wait, hold on. Can he be trusted? Can he be trusted to fulfill his end of the bargain? Because he wants Arthur to fulfill his end of the bargain right away. But can he be trusted to fulfill his end? That's the question. I hadn't expected him to make such a fair offer so quickly, but I was glad to avoid an extended back and forth threatening and bargaining in turns. Still, I knew the lengths Kezess would go in order to understand my power. Exactly. He is desperate to understand. The people of Alacria shouldn't be harmed either, I said, firmly adopting the mannerisms of a king, making a proclamation, something I had done often enough as King Grey. What happened in Elenwar can never happen again, on either continent. Kezess finally turned to look at me, his gaze piercing me like a lance. It is interesting that you mentioned Elenwar, because there is a second part to my Arthur. What? He got a second part? Oh, shit. There's a second part to my offer, but we will get to that in due time. I won't use the World Eater technique in Alacria. You can't, because Aldir isn't subservient to you anymore. I won't use the World Eater technique. Wait. I just thought about something. Okay, hold on for a second. Well, okay. Listen to me for a second. Is Kezess gonna ask Arthur to be like a double agent with Aldir? Or to bring Aldir in so he can face punishment? Or use Arthur as some sort of tool so that way he can get Aldir? Pretend to be friends with Aldir, and then maybe Kezess might give him something to trap Aldir and then bring him back or something like that, because he doesn't have I'm just thinking something with Aldir, man. It's I don't know. Let's see. I won't use the World Eater technique in Alacria, but preventing large-scale losses there will reduce my ability to assure safety for Decathlon. That's fine, I said, giving him a nonchalant shrug. I won't trade millions of lives to protect thousands. Right. Until Agrona is ready to move the war into Ephiodus, he won't sacrifice his foothold in our world. So the onus is on you not to escalate the conflict. Kezess nodded. This is true, but can you deliver on my requests? What do you mean? Can he deliver on his requests? We both know insight can't be directly bruh, you already know, because y'all tortured the jinn. Because y'all tortured my ancestors trying to get insight, and they couldn't give it to you. You tell them, Arthur. My ancestors died! We both know that insight can't be directly transmitted from one person to another, I said, thinking about everything the jinn projections had told me. I will explain my powers and how I received them, as well as my own process for gaining insight into the individual God rooms. What you will do with the information is entirely up to you. His eyes darkened as he considered. You offer me mist and maybes, but expect concrete results in return? What do you mean mist? You don't know anything about what the jinn were able to do with ether. So even if you can get a sliver of information, that sliver of information can lead you to learn other shit and develop new abilities. So he's trying to downplay the importance of getting just a little bit of information. You offer me mist and maybes, but expect concrete results in return. You knew what you were asking me, I said, leaning back against the wall. You tortured and exterminated an entire race chasing their insight, but you didn't learn a damn thing, did you? That is the second time you have mentioned this, he said, his voice taking a low rumble as storm clouds darkened his face. Take care, Arthur, that you do not overstep. The events of that age are not a subject for polite company, and mention of that ancient and dead race is forbidden here. Bruh. Okay, let's see. I weighed my response, torn between pushing him further and letting it go. Right? Indrath's atrocities against the jinn were unforgivable, but there's nothing that he can do about it right now. You know, so I think that pushing it is kind of fruitless because there's nothing you can do. You're not strong enough to do anything. So it's best to mind your tongue. But there was no point interrupting the current tenuous alliance we seem to be forming over it. Not right now. You said there was a second part to this agreement, I said at length. So let's hear it. Indrath crossed the empty chair to a different window. The view from the window shifted as he approached. One moment showing a distant mountain peak just barely piercing the clouds like an island in the sea. In the next, endless rolling fields of tall grass in colors ranging from deep blue to turquoise. A narrow road ran winding through the grass. The ground was shattered and covered in blood and corpses. That's crazy, bro. In addition to sheltering Dicathan and Alakria from the coming war, Indrath said, his tone wry and words drawn out tiredly in a way I hadn't heard from him before. I offer you justice. If you will give me the same in exchange, I offer you justice. Wait, no, bruh, look at him. I offer you justice. He's talking about Aldir wiping out Elenwar and calling it justice. Yo, get the fuck out of here. I don't think you would enjoy the kind of justice I'd offer you, I thought. Still, I was curious about what had happened and what he meant. Go on. I ordered Aldir to use the World Eater technique. You and I both know he was a soldier doing his duty. Kezess turned to face me. His eyes shifted through several shades of purple, settling as a cool maneuver. I don't know what that is. I think maneuver. But to the people of your world, it was his power that unleashed such devastation. Aldir is the wraith in the darkness they now fear. And so I offer you his life to placate the masses. Punish him for his crimes and heal the wound the World Eater left in the hearts of your people. There is no way Arthur is going to buy this shit, right? He's not that dumb. For the first time since opening Myers' cottage door and finding Kezess waiting for me, I felt wrong-footed, entirely caught off guard by his unexpected proposition. What justice do you want in return? I asked slowly, buying myself a moment to think. Kezess looked back at the blood-smeared grasslands. Wait, is that where he killed all the dragons? I just started to click this. It started to make sense now. Your justice is my justice. I asked too much of my soldier. The World Eater technique was not forbidden for its destruction capabilities, but because of the damage it did to the caster. It degrades the mind and corrupts the spirit of the pantheon who uses it. It seemed to me like that's true, but I think that is not the way that Kezess is actually explaining it, right? Because Aldir already had hesitations on even using that ability from the jump. And then once he used it, it was like further confirming that he should have never used it like he originally thought. But he did it because he wanted to serve the Indrath clan. So yeah, Kezess is on some, he's on some wordplay manipulation bullshit. Those red smears were once brave dragons, soldiers who fought beside Aldir, trained under him. Kezess placed a hand on either side of the window, staring hard down at the alien landscape. He abandoned his post, and when they reached out to him, sought to help him, he butchered him. Bro, there's no way! Yo! I called this shit! I let out a barking laugh. Exactly! Who the fuck you trying to fool? Kezess is sober immediately, the emotion he exhibited vanishing as his normally placated, plastic expression returned. You walk a dangerous line, boy. So your idea of giving us justice is to have us clean up the mess you yourself made? I asked incredulously. Yeah, I think that's how I said it, incredulously. I know you don't think much of us lessers, but come on. Kezess eyed me for a long moment, then turned back to the window and waved away the view of the grasslands. Then slowly rolling sea of clouds appeared. Then let this be a warning to you instead. Aldir has left at bruh, exactly. He thought that he was gonna fall for this propaganda bullshit, bro. Like, no. Like, you really think we're that dumb? You really think so? And then he was like, okay, fuck all this bullshit. Let me let you know what really happened. Man, this chapter is fucking amazing, man. Aldir has left Ephiodus for Dicathin, and he is dangerous. If you give him shelter or attempt to ally with him, the rest of our bargain will be voided. Yeah, this is why you can't trust him. He's serious, I realized. Aldir must have really tweaked the old dragon's tail to get him this mad. Noted, I said in answer, and agreed. Because yeah, just agree for now. And if you decide to change your mind, then obviously Aldir will have to do something really impactful to get you to leave Kezess for Aldir. You know what I'm saying? So like if Aldir offers like some great power and protection and whatnot, and Arthur ends up weighing the odds and just like, okay, who should I be with? Have Kezess as an ally or have Aldir and Ren as an ally? I mean, you can easily just be like, okay, I'm with Kezess for now, but then Aldir does, giving us some great information or some power or whatever, and Ren is making us all these badass weapons or some shit, and so fuck Kezess, we're going with Aldir. Fuck our agreement. We're gonna protect ourselves. It's something like that. So it makes sense. And agreed, if you keep your war with the Vitcher clan from escalating in our world, and you help me keep a groaner from overrunning Dicathin again, I'll tell you everything I've discovered about Ether. Kezess reached out a hand. I hesitated, knowing better than to trust him, but unsure what kind of insult it would be to refuse. He waited. After a moment, I took his hand. The tendrils of purple light appeared around our conjoined hands, then extended outward along our wrists and forearms. The ether gripped tightly, binding us together almost painfully. Is this like a a contract? Like a soul contract? Something like that? An agreement has been made, and you are bound to it, Kezess said solemnly. Break it, and this spell will devour your core. Wow. But here's another thing. Can it really devour his core? We know that he has the ability to influence ether a lot. Kezess does. And with all these spells that he be using. And we know that Arthur can resist his time spell. But he can't, like I said, he can't resist it fully to where like he can incorporate his area with the resistance, right? But if he does break this spell and the spell activates, can he resist the spell? Or better yet, can he use Aurora's Requiem because he hasn't shown him that ability yet and like reverse the spell? Bruh, there you go. I think that's, wouldn't that work, right? Break it, and this spell will devour your core. As he spoke, the coils of ether began forming their way into my flesh, digging through my muscles and into my nerves. It was painful, but not unbearably so. In seconds, the ether had reached my core. Bro, why are you letting this shit with your core, Arthur? Wrapping around it like chains, exerting a physical pressure on the organ. I didn't agree to that. We began immediately, because it's laconically? I had to look that word up. We began immediately, because it said, laconically is how you say this word. A silver of a smile mirroring his otherwise expressionless mask. You walk the path of insight. Bruh, how do you just let him do this to you, Arthur? My perspective of the room lurched, and I find myself standing on the worn stone path. Walk and activate your god rooms, as you call them. I stared at him, equal parts angry and uncertain. I hadn't expected to begin immediately, and chastised myself for being caught off guard by the binding. Of course he wouldn't just trust me to tell him everything he knew. There had to be a safeguard. Damn it, I thought. Wait, right. If he doesn't tell him everything he knows, then the contract will be void. And it will devour or attempt to devour his core. Man, Kezess is on that shit, man. He is really on that shit. Damn it, I thought. Then immediately redirected my mental energy in a more positive direction. You're wasting time, Kezess said. Walk and cast. I started moving, following the path of worn down stone. Light immediately began to flicker and flash throughout the circle. Then I reached... Man, I don't like this. Then I reached again for Realm Heart. The circle burst to life with light and energy, forming a series of runes connected by dozens of bright lines. Mana particles of every color ran rich and eager around the circle, herded on by amethyst motes of ether. But I was only half looking at the sudden swell of mana moving through the runes. I wonder if showing him some of this stuff, will it like increase his ability to understand or use Realm Heart? Inside me, I could sense the foreign ether clinging tightly to my core. I reacted to my each and every thought. It reacted to my each and every thought, tightening if I even considered the possibility of lying or limiting what I showed Kezess. I knew if I hid anything, it would react violently and attempt to force my hand, and then kill me if I still refused. It just wouldn't do. I wasn't ready to reveal more about Realm Heart than its presence. There was no reason for Kezess to know that I could move mana with ether, and so I let the god rune fade, then channeled ether instead into Aurora's Requiem. So I'm a little confused. Okay, I'm a little confused. So Kezess want him to start right away, but he's not ready to reveal everything. He got this fucking dumbass ether spell locked onto his fucking core. I felt Kezess' hungry gaze on me with every step, just as I felt the cord of ether constricting around my core. Violet particles danced along my fingertips with nowhere to go, but that didn't matter. The path of insight reacted, flickering and flaring. Both mana and ether followed my progress like one giant eyeball. But inside my body, something else was happening. As I imbued the God room, I also let ether leak from my core, but I kept it close. A halo of my own ether orbiting my core in Kezess' binding spell. What is he doing? I have to reread this. I don't understand what he's doing. But I'm gonna keep reading because I don't want to make this extremely long. If I was going to make a deal with the Lord of Dragons, it was going to be on my own terms, not his. Carefully shaping my ether, I drew it close around the invasive chains, and my ether clung as tightly to Kezess as it did to my own skin. Then I created a protective barrier. Okay, so he's trying to fuck with this spell and stop and break it. Then I pulled. The spell resisted. The ether eager to hold its shape, to keep its purpose. I kept walking. A golden glow flickered across the room as Aurora's Requiem God room burned at my back. Right. Aurora's Requiem. I literally just predicted it. How did I fucking forget that he used Aurora's Requiem? I literally just predicted this shit. Aurora's Requiem God room burned at my back, bright enough to show through my shirt. The path shined just as brightly in response. Like a bird dragging a worm from its hole, my ether pulled Kezess slowly into my core. This was the risky part. I'd never directly faced off against another ether wielder before, but I also never encountered a source of ether I couldn't draw from. Right? So he's gonna try to absorb the ether into his own core. Within my core, I felt the ether being purified. Kezess' influence overridden. Bit by bit, his ether became mine. Then, to help camouflage the change in case he could somehow sense it. So is he reforming the chains, but with his own ether? Bro, that's crazy. I reformed the chains around my core with my own ether, no longer beholden to the shape of his spell. With that complete, I felt confident enough to stop walking and step off the path. Kezess, who had been entranced by my path of insight itself, blinked back to awareness. Why are you stopping? Surely that isn't everything you've discovered. It's not, I said with a light shake of my head. You'll get more once I've seen some progress on your end of the bargain. That's not what I agreed to, he said, an undercurrent of hostility barely detectable in his tone. It seems we both should have been more careful in our wording, I replied. I suspect you have enough to occupy your mind for a while already. Anyway, and you still have your leash in place. Once I'm comfortable in the knowledge that Decathlon is safe without me, I'll return to give you more. He looked at me. I looked back. He gave no outward physical sign of agitation, but I could still sense it rolling off of him in waves. After a minute or more, he finally gave in. Return to your world, but be waiting for my summons. We are not yet finished. You and I. No, I said with a smile. No, we certainly aren't. Bruh! Amazing. That's the end of this live reaction. I'm gonna reread this chapter and get an actual review. I appreciate you guys for sticking it through and watching this. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll be posting this video soon. Peace.